Okay, hello, people of YouTube land, and those that are a part of the Cringe Crew community Discord, and those that follow Ted and I on Twitch. I'm Traductus,
And I'm Ted.
and this is the Cringe Crew Gaming James Bond podcast, and today we are covering well, I wouldn't say the first. This is in chronological order. This is the last of three non-canon Bond movies, sort of, because the first one's a made-for-TV movie, which would be Casino Royale 54. But this is the first one that we're covering from 1983, Never Say Never Again, which is essentially a Thunderball remake. The other unofficial Bond film is Casino Royale 67, and
The camera froze already. Oh boy.
hell.
Camera's frozen, dude.
There
already.
We go.
Yeah.
I figured a new camera, this would be fine, but no, scuff. All right, where was I? All right, yeah, Casino Royale 67 and Casino Royale 54 came before this being released because, as we stated previously, Casino Royale, Eon Films did not have the rights to that. And they also did not have the rights to Thunderball due to a lawsuit that a producer, Kevin McClory, and writer, Jack Whittingham, had with Ian Fleming over plagiarism over a screenplay that all three of them worked on. Obviously, Kevin McClory ended up getting the film rights for Thunderball. Thunderball was made out of agreement with Eon Films. However, Kevin McClory was adamant on making his movie, and we've covered this in previous episodes, such as Dr. No, more in depth with the Thunderball episode, and then update on The Spy Who Loved Me, where they wanted to use, characters of Blofeld and Spectre. Kevin McClory said no, because he wanted to use them for this movie. And he finally was able to make this film, and that's why this is a thing. We decided not to have this compared with Thunderball after the Thunderball episode for the sheer fact that while this was being released, Octopussy was also being released, and that was the official Bond film with Roger Moore starring. This one stars Sean Connery, so it was the Battle of the Bonds. I figure this would be kind of a fun thing to take us back to 1983 and throw Ted in there. Which movie's better? Which Bond is better on this? The Battle of the Bonds. Well, at Casino Royale, we're going to watch Casino Royale with Daniel Craig. Then we're going to watch 54, then 67. So, that's with that out of the way. Never Say Never Again. The title is actually suggested by Sean Connery's wife, because Sean Connery said that he would never play Bond again after Diamonds Are Forever. And she thought it would be like, hey, you should name the Bond movie Never Say Never Again, since, he's playing Bond again after he said he'd never do it. So she gets a credit at the very end for naming the title. But anyway, this was released by Warner Brothers. And then, at least in the United States. In the UK, it was Columbia, EMI, Warner Distributors. In the UK, both were released in 1983. And it was made with a budget of $36 million and brought in a nice fucking profit of $160 million. So,
it's a decent chunk of change.
Yeah, a decent chunk of change. So now we're going to get into the nitty gritty as we kind of normally do. This we're going to kind of do a little bit different. Obviously, like we did before, we're going to talk about cast, crew, stuff about how this movie was made. Instead of likes and dislikes, we're just going to throw that all into one because this one's weird.
Yeah. Weird is a really good way to put it.
We're also gonna compare this to Thunderball because it is a remake. And then we're going to give our overall thoughts and rankings, unless I'm missing something.
No, I don't think so.
All
I
right.
think we had talked previously about doing like a separate episode, not necessarily related to a movie specifically, and doing one that specifically compares Battle of the Bonds, maybe a shorter episode that fits in after both of the movie reviews. But yeah, for the most part, we'll cover mostly just this movie in this episode and get to comparisons and all that later.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Right on the spot. Yes. All right. Well, anyway, this was directed by Irvin Kershner. And are you familiar with that name?
I am not.
Ooh. Well, all right. There's 2 movies that he's made that are very big. One of them being RoboCop 2. And the other one, Empire Strikes Back.
Okay. What?
I
Empire Strikes Back just kind of shocked me there. Like I
yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So
Interesting.
right off the bat, hey, they got someone that you think it's someone that knows what the fuck they're doing, which probably helped with the sound. But anyway, this movie kind of went through like a development hell. Just because, like, with what it took for Thunderball to be made, but even besides then, there was like they went through like script writers, because like McClory and Jack Schwartzman weren't like gelling with like a couple other people on there. And one of the writers actually included Sean Connery. Sean Connery even did some script writing into this. As for overall with this getting made due to like changing of writing and different lawsuits, that's why this took like, instead of being made like in the late 70s, this ended up being made in like the early 80s. As for casting, obviously, they brought Sean Connery back because he was had the tenure of being Bond before Roger Moore. Like, granted, like George Lazenby was only in one film, so therefore, who had the long tenure, most people are gonna go Sean Connery, because besides Roger Moore at this time, people are gonna think Sean Connery is James Bond. As for the villains, Maximilian Largo, it's not Emilio Largo, it's Maximilian Largo, and this was casted was a Klaus Maria Brandauer. I'm probably butchering that. I'm not sure if I assume the guy's German, if not French, because his accent is all over the place.
It really it sounded like he had one strong accent trying to do another the whole movie. Like it fell in a very bizarre place that I have no idea what it was supposed to be or where he's actually from.
I am curious.
Yeah.
Austria. Okay.
Now that you mention it, I think Haley said that as we watched. I think I remember her saying it now. We're listeners.
Yay! All right. Anyway, he got the job because he was suggested by Sean Connery, and it was due to like his lead in the Academy Award-winning film Mephisto. Also suggested by Connery, for the role of Ernst Stavro Blofeld is Max von Sydow. Max von Sydow was suggested for playing Dr. No, but he turned the role down. Obviously, with how big Bond was, he's like, yeah, I'm not turning this one down. And for those who don't know who Max von Sydow is, he's Ming from the 1980s Flash Gordon movie. And this will not be, unfortunately, oddly enough, not the only time we reference Flash Gordon again. Why?
I thought we'd reached a limit, and here we are. Yeah.
No, we haven't. Because we still got Timothy Dalton. At the very least. Also, the director suggested for the Femme Fatale in this movie, which is not Fiona Volpe. They have a different name for her that is Fatima Blush. And Kirshner suggested model and former Playboy cover girl Barbara Carrera. And for the allies here, Kim Basinger, who is a famous actress known for Vicky Vale in the Michael Keaton Batman movie, also known for playing Hollywood in Ralph Bakshi's Cool World. Most people nowadays would probably know her as Eminem's mom in the movie 8 Mile. But
okay.
Well-known actress. Unfortunately, I will say that her acting abilities aren't really shown in this film. She's basically shown to be basically a pretty face, and because, you know, this is a Bond film and a Connery Bond film at that, and so, you know, business as usual, unfortunately. And not the only time that I'm going to be pissed off that a
like a well-seasoned,
a well-seasoned actress gets shafted by the script. Halle Berry. So, also we have Bernie Casey as Felix Leiter. People will know Bernie Casey in as see, I knew I was going to forget this. UN Jefferson in the Revenge of the Nerds movies, and also Jack Slade in the Wayans Brothers parody "I'm Gonna Get You, Sucker." So, which I recommend watching. That movie fucking slays. Also, we have Alec McGowan as Q in this, although it is not Major Boothroyd. It is some dude named Algernon. We have Edward Fox as M, and Pamela Salem as Miss Moneypenny. And the weirdest one, who I freaking forgot was in this movie, Mr. Bean himself, Rowan Atkinson as Nigel Smallfaucet.
Yeah, that was a really weird throw-in, and like,
he's only in 2 scenes.
And like, I don't know. Like, I guess every time I see his face, I just expect Mr. Bean to happen. I kind of forget he has other capabilities other than being Mr. Bean, and it's that really goofy because I've seen Mr. Bean.
Well, right, and I think before this, people would be more familiar with him. I mean, before, like, when this movie came out, I think people were more familiar with him as Lord Blackadder from the TV series Blackadder. Because I think that was around during this time, if not before. I'm not quite sure when Blackadder has came out, which I recommend watching. That is a really funny British comedy series. But anyway, I think that's about does it for like casting. I haven't really found much. Oh, but here is a fun thing that I just remembered. Sean Connery, to get into shape in this film, trained with Steven Seagal, who also did some of the fight choreography in this movie. And what's really funny is that during getting Connery into shape, Steven Seagal ended up breaking Connery's wrist, and he didn't find out about it until 10 years afterwards.
That's okay. Hey, broke my wrist. I use my wrist every time I turn my hand, but it took 10 years to figure it out.
It might have been like one of those like stress fractures where it was like a crack or something like that. Because there's a few people that have broken like vertebrae in their neck and didn't know about it. Case in point, Andy Kaufman.
Sure, I don't bigger bones in places that don't move as often. Like, sure, I get it, man. But like, man, I feel my wrist get sore every time I type on my keyboard. Not like. He's in action movies, and was his whole fucking... How do you not know? For 10 years. What the fuck kind of shit is that?
I guess Connery doesn't feel pain.
God. Can't imagine.
But with all that, I guess we'll get right down to the movie. You want me to go first, or you to go first?
You have at it, bud.
All right. So this movie is weird. All right, there isn't really necessarily like positives. There's things that I like about this movie, and there's like a few things that I don't like about this movie. Like, I will say this right out, for what it is, this movie isn't bad. And by the way, this did get like positive reviews when it came out. In more recent times, this movie is looked as a pile of dog shit, and I could see why. But I will say this movie's a little bit better than I remember it being. Like there's a few things that I really like. I like Fatima Blush, despite her seeming that she's in a completely different world and film on this, she's at least nutty enough for me to be entertained by her. I like the fact that Largo in this is like he's not menacing like Adolfo Celli is in at least I think God I probably butchered that last name, but anyway, as Largo is in Thunderball, he's very menacing and like leading the team. This one he's more creepy. He leads the team somewhat, near the end of the movie, but like he is more so kind of like a supervisor, more or less. I also like Bernie Casey as Felix Leiter. I think he got that role down very well. I think Kim Basinger, for what she's giving, does all right. The sound's good. The action scenes are hit or miss. There's some like things that are quite dated. Other things are fine. But the biggest issue I have with this film, it seems very made for TV, and there's like a lot of callbacks, as in like, as opposed to like, okay, we're gonna put like a Bond film set in the '80s, and we're bringing in Connery. Let's see how they adapt to it. To me, this seems more of like a throwback, and with it being a throwback, there's a lot of things that are kind of like wonky about it. Case in point, like in like Connery like is able to like gain like Domino's trust almost instantly with like no build up. See what's fucking another one. The ending when Domino kills Largo, she shows up out of nowhere under the water, and that just kind of like makes no sense why she's there. It makes sense if you watch Thunderball, because that's what happens in Thunderball, as in like Domino kills Largo, but like she's on the boat in that film, so it makes sense. With this, it doesn't make sense whatsoever, and it irks me to no end because it just makes zero sense. And there's a lot of things on this where a lot of things don't really make sense. A lot of cases, this is also kind of like two films put together and doesn't really pick up until like the last 48 minutes of the movie. There's a few people that are just introduced that why are they even in this film? Like, I understand that they were trying to like they were gonna make like another movie that would feature like Blofeld in that, but Connery decided like not to return as Bond. Like this was like it for him, and it was it for him, so that never came to be. But like, he's like in like 3 or 4 like different scenes, but like they're very, very brief. And to me, it's like they could have just had him at the beginning, and there wasn't really need for him to be here throughout this film, other than to kind of rub it into like Eon films, like, hey, we have Blofeld. And a lot of things seems very mean-spirited, as in there's different occasions where it's like, oh yeah, this is the real Bond, it's Sean Connery. Especially like with Q, with going like, you were always my favorite, or in another line, it's like, you were a good spy. And it's like, it was too busy trying to be like the 60s Bond films and not doing really right. That, and also Connery's kind of awkward in this. at times, especially like when it comes to like Domino. Um, but other than that, I can't think of anything except for one thing I thought was really clever was um when Bond like storms the casino and then gives like the guy like a what he says is a bomb, and if he drops, lowers it, it's going to like explode. And then you find out later it's just a cigar case, and I'm like, that's pretty amazing. I think like Connery, despite really phoning it in, because he's 100% a Scotsman in this, I think he does an all right job getting back into the mold. And with that, I don't really have much to add because, like, despite the short spurts of entertainment that are in this movie, for the most part, it's just kind of boring.
Yeah, okay. Imagine you have like a coin that has both sides are heads, right? You know what the result is? You flip it and you go, "Oh, it's heads." Like you know exactly what's coming out of it, right?
Right.
It's got Bond tropes. It's got 80s tropes. It's got like we've already seen the source material done well with Thunderball, right? Like just there's nothing about this movie that gives you fucking anything. It's really just bland. I have.
They don't even improve upon like things, because like
No, there's no like. I talked about this to Stallman yesterday. We watched in 2 parts, so as we were waiting to start the second part, we kind of talked about the fact that like this is just boring, right? There's not a lot of positives. There's not a lot of negatives. I will say this in a really weird way. It's obviously better than Moonraker, right? But like in a weird in a weird way, I enjoyed watching Moonraker more because at least I felt something. This one was just like. You just kind of sat there, the movie was on, you're like, okay, it's done. And then you moved on, and there was never any feeling of any kind, like, towards it. There's just nothing. I mentioned the 80s tropes. There were a whole lot of things that's just like, oh, okay, this was definitely made in the 80s. And I think I even mentioned that, like, for the 80s, I'm sure this was very popular. Like, seeing this in 83, I probably would have thought this was really, really good. But to see it now, it's just like, okay, but it feels like every other 80s action movie. It doesn't get it. The whole thing for me watching this movie, my biggest takeaway was really that, like, obviously they were not canon, right? They tried to just
right, and it is interesting to see how like another company makes a Bond movie. So,
well, I mean, like, it was very clear that their intentions were just steal the Bond audience so they watch ours instead of theirs, right?
Right.
What they did to do that was like, hey, Thunderball was popular, let's do it again. Connery and Blofeld were popular, let's do it again. We don't really need any more effort, this will be enough. And
yeah,
and like the movie felt like it tried too hard to be written. They put effort into the acting for everybody outside of Connery, and then like all of that effort went to being cardboard. Like it was just boring. This movie was difficult to get through, not because it was bad, but just because like there was no significant anything about it.
And I will say this, the fact that we watched this in 2 parts had nothing to do with that. My schedule was all fucked up.
Yeah. No, yeah, we didn't cut it off because it was boring. We cut it off because internet sucked and then schedule sucked, and it just no. But in the grand scheme of things, like I don't even think that there was a detriment to watching it in 2 parts. I thought it became, if anything, more manageable because we didn't have to sit through the whole thing. Right. We sat through 2 different hour-long pieces. Like, it just, I don't know. This movie just felt like nothing.
Yeah, like, that's literally what I got, and it's kind of a shame because it's like, it's cool to see Connery back. The only thing that I really get from this is thinking like, what would have happened if like Columbia Pictures, who owned Casino Royale at that time, like made their like a serious because the version that they made was a parody back in '67, and I was thinking like, well, what if they hopped on the train and they had like a serious Casino Royale movie with George Lazenby there to like battle it out? I always thought that would be kind of interesting. I haven't found anything if that was planned or anything or whatnot. I will probably do more in depth on that when we get to like Casino Royale. But like, there's just it's you figured that there would be something more different with like someone else's like different take on Bond, but like I mean, there are some differences, but a lot of it was just like callbacks and throwbacks, and it's like,
Well, and especially breaking the franchise too, right? I mean, like when you like we talked a bunch about Christopher Nolan's Batman yesterday, which I don't need to get thoroughly into, but like when you watched the progression of those three movies, right? Like you kind of knew that you were going to hit the same Christopher Nolan marks. You were going to have the same character be Batman. You were going to have the same kinds of tropes and attitudes and like character development through those movies, right?
right,
The moment they made one with who was next? What's his name? I can Ben Affleck, right?
right.
Like
Which
they,
I actually liked his
they,
portrayal.
I'm just like they got the creative liberty to do whatever the hell they damn well pleased. They could make him an entirely different character with the same source material, right? And
Right.
like I felt like giving Bond that freedom, especially with how many of these movies I've had really significant complaints about. Like I thought giving a different studio, a different director, a different writer, like a whole different team of production, the ability to take this character at its base and turn it into whatever their creative like direction could possibly muster up. And it just turned into, well, if we have Connery, that's all we need. Move along.
Yeah, and
Cast
it's a
check.
shame because the director directed The Empire Strikes Back. My personal favorite out of all the Star Wars movies, like, and what people kind of consider the gold standard for, a Star Wars movie.
Yeah, the whole thing just it just fell flat and turned into nothing. I hate that like we're creating content to review a movie and all we can say is it was nothing, but I mean honestly that's all there is to say about it. Like that's pretty much it.
Yeah. I guess now it's compare it to Thunderball. Thunderball is obviously better.
I enjoyed Thunderball, and this one felt like nothing. I mean, I feel like I've kind of compared it in a sense that, like, I mean, watch the Thunderball episode, watch this one, like, you get a whole lot of the gist. But I mean, in the grand scheme of things, like, they took the same base idea, but this one just add Connery, do nothing. Like,
yeah, and it's a shame because, like, I like how, like, in Thunderball, Bond literally has to earn Domino's trust. And also Domino, right off the bat, is implied to know that, Largo's a sinister character and stuff, while in this, she's just kind of aloof. And then it's just like, oh, Bond just creepily waltzes in and gives her a massage while she thinks he works there, and then they meet up at like a casino and they just bullshit, and then they dance, and then goes, yeah, Largo killed your brother. And it's like, why should she believe him? Like, she just like met him twice. It's and it's just like they assume that you've seen Thunderball and you're just going to get it automatically.
Right, and then watch our franchise because you liked Thunderball. This one has Connery, and you already know what happens, even though we didn't explain it to you. Like, it was a cheap ploy. It really was.
And it's terrible because, like, Thunderball was, like, in the mid-'60s. This is 83. Like, it's almost, like, 20 years. Like, there's not a lot of people that remember something from, like, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Like, especially then. I mean, now at least you have the internet to look things up. Back then, you had to, you basically had to, like, well, I guess 83, I think, video rental stores were probably out then, so you had to probably, be lucky to get it on Betamax or VHS, or you'd have to be lucky to see it on TV. Like, the options were very limited, and it's just, yeah.
It really is. I guess all we've really got to say for this one is just running through rankings and closing it out.
Yeah, which is unfortunate. Like I was hoping that this was going to be so bad that I was going to have something to give on this, but it wasn't. It was just dull.
Yeah. We started to talk about rankings a little last night. So the first thing that I'm going to say that kind of hurts me is the more movies we watch past Goldfinger, the more I appreciate Goldfinger, and that makes me mad. Like, watching it, I don't think I enjoyed it, right? Like, but
Right.
at least there was a plot. I felt something. There were strong things to say about it. It was a well-written movie, even if I didn't enjoy it.
Well, if it helps you, you have 6 films above Goldfinger.
I know. But this is 3 in a row that I'm using Goldfinger as the measuring stick to be like, well, Goldfinger had a good plot. I felt things while I watched Goldfinger. Like, good. This was like I said. It was last week that I said that like I had a really difficult time placing it. This one was miles harder because, like I said, Moonraker very definitively at the bottom of my list. I felt something watching that movie. It was more enjoyable because at least I felt mad. You know, like this was just like it was staring at drywall. Would have been the exact same experience, except I have more to talk about. I what I'm gonna end up doing is I'm going to put it presently 9th, below You Only Live Twice and above For Your Eyes Only.
I fucking called it.
Yeah, like I said, it's I knew
it was gonna be above like For Your Eyes Only because we talked beforehand. I just wasn't sure if it was gonna be above or below You Only Live Twice.
Right, like I said, it's objectively, I know this isn't a bad movie, right? But the experience watching it is just so poor that it just feels so bad. It makes me hate that Goldfinger is literally now the halfway point, the measuring stick on this list to have put it below Goldfinger. But the more movies I think this is 3 in a row now.
We still have Goldfinger in the same spot.
I'm just saying, like, I think, like, again, watching it, I didn't enjoy Goldfinger, right? I was confident putting it towards the bottom. And now that it's the measuring stick, it's literally the halfway point where I go, okay, did it have more plot, less plot? Did I feel better about it, worse about it? Really fucking sucks for me. It makes me feel like I've wasted 13 weeks, and they have to get better from here, right? Because, like, if I get another movie this goddamn dull, I'm just gonna be so disappointed. This just feels like nothing.
Yeah, I can't guarantee on the on Octopussy, but like, because I haven't seen that in a while. I do remember enjoying it, so there's that. But then again, I remember thinking that For Your Eyes Only was the best Roger Moore Bond film, and that was like below Live and Let Die for me, and that's like 10 on your list. So, but. Yeah. So like I don't know what to do for hope on that. I will say the Timothy Dalton era kicks the series in the ass for it in the gear at the very least. If not GoldenEye at least does.
Honestly, I'm just hoping the next Moore, like the one we watch next week, the Roger Moore film turns it around at this point, because like seeing Connery back is like, hey, nostalgia, I know that guy. Oh, this sucks again.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, and because he's in Octopussy, then he's also in A View to a Kill, Roger Moore. So we got 2 more. I'll say at least A View to a Kill, you got Christopher Walken as the villain. So,
all right. I think that about wraps it up for this one. Like I said,
all right, my ranking. I'm putting. Sorry. Oh yeah. All right. So I was thinking the same way. Is it better or... Well, it wasn't actually if it was better or worse than You Only Live Twice. I thought it was worse than You Only Live Twice just because, like, with Never Say Never Again being just, like, feels like very made for TV, at least You Only Live Twice and The Man with the Golden Gun they at least feel cinematic. Now, granted, so does Moonraker and Diamonds Are Forever, but they're piles of dog shit. So to me, I was just like, well, it's kind of meh, as like Dr. No was sort of meh for me. And the only reason why I have it above Dr. No at number 10 is because Never Say Never Again to me feels like it's 2 films mashed into one, while Dr. No was like 3, so therefore the plot was more cohesive. If that makes sense.
That's fair. All right. Well, now I think that actually wraps us up because we actually got rankings in.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm scuffed. So, like I said, next week we'll, watch the second half of Battle of the Bonds. We'll do a separate comparison episode that's not necessarily tied into a movie, just to, keep things short and sweet on each of the movie review podcasts, and, you're not trying to search for other content within a certain movie. Otherwise, you can catch movies with us in the Discord on Tuesdays. The Discord link will be posted in the description. You can follow both of us on Twitch. Stallman at Traductus, myself at
Don't you mean
Eagles.
Thursday? Oh wait, yeah, we watch them on Tuesdays. These get uploaded on Thursdays.
Yes. Yeah. All right. Not scuffed at all, I promise.
It's been a long day for me.
Yeah. Anyway, thanks for watching this one, and we'll see you next week.
Yep, see ya.